and the contact saved as delivery. The first time I saw the name, it didn't look like a person. Delivery sat at the top of Arya's phone screen in the glow between two alarms, tucked under a map to a cafe we never go to and a reminder about her mother's birthday. The notification previewed just 3 words, same place, 2140, before disappearing like it had better things to do. Her phone was face up on our kitchen island, humming against a water ring. She was in the shower, singing the part of a song that doesn't know whether it's a prayer or a dare. If I were the sort of man who snoops for sport, I would have tapped. I'm not. I'm the sort of man who builds crisis plans for other people's mistakes and tests locks for a living. My company calls it reputational risk management. My mother calls it arguing with imaginary friends. Either way, I know that information you steal from the person you love never makes you smarter, just lonelier. But the name lived in my head like a pebble in a shoe. Arya manages the field operation for the mayoral challenger, a woman who believes clean streets and clean contracts shouldn't be electives. That means Arya's phone is a museum of adrenaline. Volunteers, precinct captains, donors, the intern who always texted the wrong group chat to confess he'd lost the banner. We joke about her battery usage like it's a third roommate. Delivery didn't fit with yard signs and clipboards. It fit with favors. By the time she came back from the shower, wrapped in the towel she never knots well, hair smelling like citrus intelligence, I had rinsed the mugs and done the performance of not thinking that tired couples do. "You're up early," she said, which in our apartment translates to, "What did you see?" "Client called," I said, which translates to, "Something is about to be on fire." She padded to me, toe to toe, like the floor was a witness. "Put it out," she said, and kissed me quick, precise, a punctuation mark that means move. In rooms where people count votes for a living, you learn to name what you want before someone else names it for you. We have a rule, Arya and I, invented after our last big fight about a donor dinner that turned into a photo she didn't want to be in. If it's ugly and it's ours, we say it first. Our password for ugly is ridiculous. Honeysuckle, chosen on a dare to make us hate it less each time. At 21:28, the pebble won. "You going out?" I asked, catching her putting on the black jeans she reserves for walking through bad neighborhoods with good intentions. "Only to the war room," she said. "We're reassigning canvassers for the North Precincts. The incumbents' people are playing games with the bus schedule again." "You need a ride." "I need you to not be heroic," she said, grinning. "You're prettier when you're plausible." "Whose delivery?" She tied her hair into a knot that looked like a decision. She watched me measure her and decided to help. "Vendor," she said. "We get water and snack packs for long shifts. They don't invoice, it's all volunteer run." "You trust a vendor who texts like a smuggler." "I trust my own radar," she said, and pulled the hoodie over her head. "Say it then," I said. "Honeysuckle," she said and rolled her eyes. "I hate that word." "That's why it works." She left me with dishes, 4 campaign flyers, and a city that had learned to be too loud at night to hear itself. At 21:41, a message hit my own phone from an unknown number. It read, "Your partner doesn't know you'll be there. Keep it that way. Delivery." I stared at it the way you stare at a dog that knows your name. Then I did the thing you do when you're paid to walk into rooms that will hurt you. I went anyway. The address was a co-working space above a laundromat, the kind that promises your startup will be funded if you sit in the right chair. The elevator made that forgiving buzz old buildings make when they want to apologize in advance. Inside, the war room looked like every other one. Maps taped to whiteboards, little flags stabbed into neighborhoods like they'd consented, Laptops open to spreadsheets that decide whose shoes will bleed next. Arya was there with her crew, sleeves shoveled to elbows, arguing with a precinct captain who believed in anger the way some people believe in diet plans. I didn't enter. I found a corner of hallway and watched a minute I had no right to. She was strongest when she was practical, sexiest when she was unembarrassed, beautiful all the time and worst when she thought she had to be. The text came again. Room B at 2200. Come alone. Room B wasn't a room. It was the freight landing behind the building, where a steel door opened to the alley, and the alley opened to the river of people who kept the city moving without asking for their names on plaques. Delivery arrived at the minute. A woman in a navy jacket that tried and failed to hide how organized her body was. She wore no makeup except whatever her mouth had decided was enough. "I like the eyes," she said by way of hello. "You look like someone who counts ceiling tiles when people lie." "Delivery," I said. "Dima," she said and grinned at my face. "Yes, it's usually a boy. Sorry to disappoint." "What am I here for, Dima?" "To decide if you're the man I think you are," she said, and handed me a folded paper. 5 precincts. The incumbents people have pulled a trick with the chain of custody for absentee ballots. They're registering staging locations as drop-off hubs, and then rerouting sealed bags through a private security firm before they hit the city warehouse. "That's illegal." "It's administrative," she said. "Which is worse?" "Why me?" I asked. "Because you're the only person who can walk both floors," she said. "You're sleeping with the best field director this city's had in a decade. You advise firms that own half the locks in this town. Even the wrong people respect you, mostly because they think you're theirs." "I'm not." "I know," she said. "Where did you get this?" "I was the wrong person once," she said. "I helped build their staging system by accident. I thought I was saving time. I was, for them." "You're flipping." "I'm washing my hands," she said, "in public." The alley's light did that tired thing neon does at midnight. Dima's face was less dramatic than it should have been. "Tell Arya," she said, "or don't. But if you don't, text me lemon. If you do, text me salt. Either way, I'll move the vans." "And you want what?" "For the city to not be a joke," she said, "and maybe for you to stop pretending not to be brave." She turned to go, then turned back, stepping into my space like a decision we both wanted and neither would take. "If I were 22, she said, "I'd kiss you now and call it strategy." "I'm not 22 either," I said and didn't move. "Good," she said and left. In the war room, I found Arya with her jaw set the way it gets when she isn't sure whether to fight her own people or let them ruin themselves first. "I need to show you something," I said, "not as your boyfriend." "Then as who?" "As the locksmith," I said, and put the paper on the table between us. She read like she practices fighting, fast, then slower, then exact. "Where did this come from?" she asked. "Delivery," I said. "Who is Dima?" Arya's eyes sharpened. "I know that name." "You should," I said. "She built half the bad habits we're trying to break." "Is she reliable now?" Arya asked. "She's angry," I said. "That's better." Campaigns run on 3 things: votes, volunteers, and the correct panic at the right time. Arya moved like someone who had just been given permission to be the version of herself she loves best. "If we go public," she said, "we look like we're pre-explaining losing." "If we don't," I said, "we become complicit in the rule we hate, and your people will find out we knew." She stared at the map as if it might say please. "We need proof," she said. "We need a van," I said, "and a friend at the warehouse." 2 calls later, we had both. The friend, a clerk who'd been demoted twice for refusing to let a donor's cousin cut the line for a tax bill, agreed to check the log against the van's odometer if we got him the number. The van, Dima's, was idling near a coffee shop where the barista knows everybody's sins. Arya touched my wrist, right where the passcode of my pulse lives. "Are we doing this together?" she asked. "We are," I said. She swallowed a quick laugh. "Say it," she whispered near my mouth. "Honeysuckle," I said, "because I'm nothing if not consistent," and she kissed me like prayer meets dare. What we did was not glamorous. We followed a van from a church basement to a law office to a private storage facility with a name that sounded like a vitamin. We filmed the transfer at a distance that made it boring for anyone who didn't understand what a seal is. Dima texted lemon twice because evening choices are never binary. We texted back salt. The warehouse confirmed the bags arrived 4 hours later than they should have, logged at a door that's supposed to be for outgoing mail only. Arya called the city lawyer who hates losing his pension. I called a reporter who knows the difference between irregularities and irregular. By dawn, we had a statement. By 10, the incumbent's people said oversight and blamed a vendor that doesn't exist. By noon, delivery stopped being acute contact and became a person who would need a new job by Friday. At 2 p.m., I found Dima sitting on the hood of her van, cigarette unlit between fingers that looked more restless than guilty. "You burned a bridge," I said. "I burned a dock," she said. "Keeps the boats honest." "You'll be okay." "I know how to count," she said. "What about you?" "What about me?" "You touched something you shouldn't have," she said, "even if you did it for the right person." "She's not the only right person," I said. "I know," she said again, and this time her smile wasn't for me. It was for the version of herself that had stopped pretending. "Why lemon and salt?" I asked. "Because that's how you make anything taste like itself," she said. When I got home, Arya was asleep across our couch, shoes discarded like arguments, wrist over her eyes, the towel from the morning finally giving up on the shower rod. I watched her breathing and felt that happiness that comes when you've done something hard in the right room with the right person, and the city didn't manage to turn it into a meme. She woke, blinked, and reached out as if someone had called her name. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she said, "we didn't lose." "Not today," I said. She pulled me down by the hoodie and kissed me with the softness we reserve for after. Then she pulled me harder the way you do when you need to remind a body of what it believes. We went slow. We were careful like people who know what carelessness costs. Her hair stuck to her cheek and I moved it with a thumb like we were more than our jobs. When she climbed over me, she laughed, a low thing that belongs on a porch. If neighbors heard us, they heard 2 people allowed to be alive. After, our phones lit up like anxious birds. We turned them face down until the universe remembered it didn't own us. "Who is she?" Arya asked finally. Not jealous, just curious about the word delivery she decided to forgive. She was lying on my chest tracing the old scar that never gets old to her. "A person we owe," I said, "and a person who will ask us not to keep owing her forever." "Invite her to dinner," Arya said. "If she says yes, I'll like her. If she says no, I'll like her more." The election took 4 more weather reports and an argument about whether a park can be considered housing if it has a fence. The warehouse changed their procedure. The clerk got his promotion back. Dima quit before they could fire her and started consulting for a union that knows the difference between a smile and a contract. Arya slept sometimes. I stopped being plausible and felt prettier anyway. The delivery contact stayed in her phone because the new habit was to name a person what they actually did for the city. Every time it buzzed, I watched Arya's mouth do that thing I love. Fear first, then decision, then humor. She always picked up. She always said, "What do you need?" She always wrote it down. We never changed the password. I still hate it. It still works. And on nights when the map on the wall looks like a confession we haven't earned yet, I stand at the edge of the island with both our phones face down and tell Arya the ugliest thing I've remembered that day. She tells me the thing she wanted to hide and didn't. We eat lemons with salt like kids who learned a secret in a kitchen they weren't supposed to be in. We say the stupid word that lets us out of the worst rooms with our hands still warm. Delivery arrives. We answer. We stay hours. We keep the city honest enough to try again tomorrow.